Hello, Space Marines of the Union Aerospace Coalition, and welcome to Circuit Court Entertainment. We are here to discuss how laws and history affect all forms of media. I'm your commander, Mina, and today we are looking at what may be the longest-running joke in gaming, though it didn't start off that way, which is Doom can run on anything. Let's get started. So, what's Doom? Doom was released on December 10th, 1993 by id Software, and it is one of the most influential video games ever. It is one of the earliest examples of a proper first-person shooter, beat by Wolfenstein 3D, which came out only slightly beforehand and was also released by id Software. And Doom remains one of the most successful. To set the stage, video games were a decade past the crash of 1983. Sonic the Hedgehog, a game where you jump and run, had 3 games under its belt. Nintendo had released the first Mario Kart game, a Mario Racing sub-series, for the Super NES. Street Fighter II Turbo and Mortal Kombat 1, both highly influential fighting games, were duking it out on the arcade scene and home consoles. Gabriel Knight, a point-and-click adventure mystery, and considered the high point of Sierra's independent efforts, was about to release with its Hollywood voice talents of Tim Curry, Mark Hamill, and Michael Dorn. Heck, the Street Fighter movie was preparing to release in 1994, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie came out in May 28, 1993. Video games were not as widespread as they were now, but they were well known and had carved out a decent space for themselves. Still very much considered for kids, and most plot-based games were limited to the point-and-click genre or various role-playing games, RPGs, such as Final Fantasy, Digital Devil Saga, Ultima, or Might and Magic. The RPGs borrowed heavily from Dungeons & Dragons, making them initially more like a single-player campaign than the point-and-clicks, which were more of a fusion between movies and novels. And into this world stepped Doom. Doom had very little story. It was also not the first shooter game, but previous shooter games functioned more as being led around on rails or staying in one place as things come to you, such as NES's Duck Hunt. With Wolfenstein and Doom, you could walk around in an area, find secret areas, and most importantly, shoot at bad guys. What were Doom's bad guys? Demons. Doom Guy, which is his actual canonical name, he might have another one, but he's just called Doom Guy, is our lead character. And he starts off on Mars and then ends the game killing a giant cyber demon in hell. Despite that, Doom, with its revolutionary gameplay and its, for its time, bloody graphics and smooth movement, quickly propelled its popularity, and for a long time, games in that vein were called Doom clones, before eventually settling into being called first-person shooters, referring to how the game is played as if you are looking through the player character's eyes. Doom was created by John Romero, John Carmack, Tom Hall, Sandy Peterson, and Dave Taylor, with Romero pulling double duty as designer and programmer. Back in the 90s, when teams could be that small. Part of this is because in the 90s, Western game development was mostly in the hands of modders and semi-amateur programmers, people working out of basements and doing it just because. But it could be a big business. Doom sold 3.5 million copies by 1995, impressive to this day. In comparison, the 2016 remake stats just for Steam, a major digital PC game distribution platform, are estimated at around 5.5 million. And the modern remake of Doom was also sold on other storefronts and physically, not just on Steam. And it wasn't even in the top-selling game of that year. That honor goes to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, which I can't find any stats for beyond Activision found it didn't sell as well as they had hoped, and it sold more than Pokemon Sun. Okay, so we've established that Doom was revolutionary for a few reasons. So, next question. Why are we talking about this? Well, let me ask. How often do you see news reports about how X can now run Doom? While writing this podcast, I saw an article about Doom running on an electric toothbrush. When I was growing up, I heard rumors it could run on advanced calculators, and as I did grow up, I saw news reports of more ways to run Doom. Pregnancy tests, ATMs, player pianos, you name it, and it has some sort of a computer chip. Someone's tried to run Doom on it. Heck, there's even been a handful of attempts at knitting the Doom source code. So, why is this only happening to Doom? Why not Mario Brothers or Donkey Kong or Doom's predecessor, Wolfenstein 3D? So I have to talk about copyright, or more specifically, copyleft. No, really, that's what it's called. The copyleft movement feels that copyright shouldn't really exist. Goods may be bought and sold, but once they are acquired, you can do whatever you want with them. And with games, that does include modification. And John Carmack was a proponent of copyleft, I think. I'm not finding it in his own words, but the actions of the Doom team shows someone was. And when the Doom code was released, the permissions explicitly both thank John Carmack and note that it is being released under the GNU public license, which is a major proponent of copyleft. In fact, if you look at the opening of the GNU public license V2 that is mentioned in the release, the first few lines state, by contrast, the GNU general public licenses are intended to guarantee your freedom to share and change free software, to make sure the software is free for all its users, which is what happened to Doom. Part 1 of why is Doom running on everything with a circuit board is because of how Doom was distributed. Doom was initially released in a shareware model, where, back in the early days of the internet, portions of the game would be free to download. Basically, it was a demo. And if you liked it, you could pay for the rest. But also, piracy and hacking were a thing, especially in these early days of PC gaming. So there was no guarantee that people who played your game would buy it. Piracy and its effect on purchasing and its ethics in a world where games are shifting to a digital-only model and can be delisted at a moment's notice is a whole other thing, so we will leave it here for now. And after the Doom source code was fully released in 1999 or 1997, apparently 1997, but I'm only finding it for the Linux version in 1999. But either way, John McCormack put the source code out there between 4 and 6 years after the game was released. For Linux, yes, but everyone who would be looking at it were likely to be modders. People who fiddled with the code for fun. They could figure it out. In addition, the actual assets except for the music, which was under a separate copyright, were released in a file called a .wad. It stood for Where's All the Data, and with both the source code and the WAD, you could modify Doom if you knew how. And many people did. Mods ranged from prettying up the graphics to extra levels, to changing locations, enemy designs, to making the game just completely different. Part 2 is the amount of official ports, or releases onto other consoles. Video games, unlike books and most home movies, can only play things they understand. For example, you can't put a PlayStation game into your computer's disk drive and expect it to work. The computer doesn't know how to read the disk. In the early days of computers, the data and specs could vary wildly between individual computers, and also Windows, Linux, and Apple all used programming languages that didn't easily understand the other. To make these games in ways that other consoles understood is called porting. And especially back in the 90s, it was an art in and of itself. So, 1993 Doom is here, possibly as the game with the most official ports that don't do significant changes to its games. I'm looking at you, Street Fighter 2, and your at least 5 editions that keep adding characters. Street Fighter. Doom has 23 official ports. Some of them are quite bad. The 3DO version is one of the worst, but the story behind it makes it a miracle in and of itself that it came out at all. But others are quite good. One added a few extra levels that are still around. The game always sold well and solidified first-person shooters as a genre. It's also apparently pretty fun. I haven't played it, but it may be a fun thing to stream if anyone is interested. Starting in the 2000s, it got several ports for our newest systems, and with that, the love of Doom goes on. But to go back to the point, we need to talk about the unofficial ports. The real meme of Can It Run Doom? In 2006, YouTuber Kevlar Gorilla released a video of him playing Doom on the DS. While I doubt he was the first person to realize this, the fact of the matter is computer chips were becoming smaller and more powerful. Nintendo DSs had their own operating system, computer chips, and between its decent size, price, and power, a lot of people started messing around with its programming, leading to a thriving mod scene of the device. Since it did, after all, play games, putting Doom to it seemed obvious. But that opened the floodgates. Once people started looking around at the things in their own life that had screens and computer chips, the internet got a new challenge. Can it run Doom? So that's where we are now. Doom's combination of relatively low resources and power needs, combined with the modern age's very powerful computer chips running many things in the modern day-to-day life, plus John Carmack's dedication to the copyleft movement, led to a real fun challenge for modern programmers, modders, and Doom fans. In the spirit of the copyleft movement, and to quote, "You may copy and distribute verbatim copies of the library's complete source code as you receive it in any medium. I'd like to run over some of the places where you can play, or at least display, Doom. As some things lack a way to input controls, so displaying the game in real time does count. We have Twitter, the website Archive of Our Own, which is a mostly text-based website, calculators, Apple Watches, Mac touch bars, pregnancy tests, player pianos, iPods, an ATM, and Inside Doom itself. Right now, the winner of the challenge may be getting Doom to display via E. coli bacteria, which debuted late January 2024, but according to its own paper, will take at least 600 years to render a full playthrough. But it's still an incredible feat, and one I'm sure with practical applications. Somewhere. I'm not a cellular biologist. So here we are, with copyleft movements in a groundbreaking video game. The source code is out there, and I still yet to play Doom. I wonder if anyone has ported it to the Video Girl Barbie. Maybe that should be someone's next project. Thank you for listening to Circuit Court Entertainment. If you found this episode interesting, please tell others as this is a new podcast. Please subscribe and leave a review on all the major podcast services. You can find me on Twitter at CCEPod and Tumblr at Circuit Court Entertainment. This episode was written, edited, and recorded by me, Mina. The script was edited by CJ Peterson. Podcast art by Empress Cirque on Twitter. Thank you for your time, and I hope to hear from you soon.